Attention, all proud warriors. Have you ever considered joining Time Patrol? As a Time Patroller, you'll prevent history from being changed. Our duty is to...
Hey, I started this channel with the idea of going back and replaying the Dragon Ball games I had missed in the last couple of years. And with Dragon Ball Z Kakarot finally wrapped up, it feels like the right moment to move on to the next Dragon Ball game. And although I've spent a lot of time in Xenoverse, I never actually went back and experienced the full stretch of the DLCs this game has accumulated since launch. So after picking up a large chunk of that content, something I'll openly admit was aggressively expensive, I'm stepping back into the world with fresh new eyes. And because this is an art tellings video, simply covering what I missed never really felt right. This time I'm starting from the very beginning, making sure nothing gets left behind while overanalyzing every single event. Now this game means a lot to me. I spent hours in Xenoverse with friends, experimenting, grinding, breaking the game in small ways, and for the fandom, this era marked a noticeable shift. This series opened itself up, gave players agency inside timelines, and treated Dragon Ball history as something flexible, rather than dealing with that exact same story over and over again. Now as we approach 11 years since its release, it feels like the right time to look back at a series that never stopped evolving. And I'm doing that by revisiting Xenoverse's story through its sequel. Legend Patrol Pack is a DLC that allows players to experience the entire main story and GT DLC from the original Xenoverse within Xenoverse 2. This pack preserves the original Time Patrol storyline while benefiting from Xenoverse's 2 systems and presentation. Played alongside the revamp mod, it gives the now decade-old experience a renewed sense of visual clarity, and that makes it the perfect entry point for this next chapter. Now, it's worth clarifying early that this content doesn't open up immediately. Access to the Legend Patrol Pack is locked behind progression to Xenoverse 2's main story, requiring players to complete the Frieza Saga before it becomes available. It puts it at a very interesting spot, especially with this DLC was partially positioned as a way for Switch players to experience the original Xenoverse story. This DLC also doesn't recreate the full Xenoverse 1 experience in terms of character creation. Players don't build a separate Xeno 1 avatar. Instead, the game carries your existing Xenoverse 2 character forward, complete with their appearance, skills, and progression. The story frames this choice as a simulation, a reconstructed run through the original event. That explanation becomes more relevant as the narrative unfolds, and I'll circle back on that a little bit later. From there, the story opens up with Goku reliving some of the most iconic battles in the series. Each encounter begins to shift in the opposition's favor, as our normal rotation of villains receive a strange unnatural boost in power, altering the outcomes that should have already been settled. History starts to bend in on itself in a very small but noticeable way. Now this timeline is set to age 850. Future Trunks summons Shenron and makes a wish for a powerful ally, someone capable of defending time itself. The Dragon Balls scatter almost immediately after the wish is granted, leaving the summoned warrior confused as Trunks initiates combat without any explanation.
You're surprised, I'm sure. I'll have to explain it all to you later. For now, let's see how much power you have.
This summoned fighter is the Future Warrior. Their appearance is entirely dictated by the player, with selectable races including Saiyans, Earthlings, Namekians, Majins, and the Frieza race. However, across promotional material and official artwork, the Future Warrior is most depicted as a young male Saiyan with features and hair reminiscent of adult Gohan. This version of the character is named Ace. The design I've always loved, and he still holds the most aura of all the Bandai CAC, even Mr. John 1000 over there. For the sake of the maintaining internal consistency during this playthrough, that's the look and name I chose to carry forward. This isn't the first time Bandai has used its design, by the way. In early promotional material for Ultimate Tenkaichi's Hero Mode, a character strikingly similar to Ace shows up there as well. Now once the test concludes, Trunks finally explains where we are and who he is, introducing himself as the leader of the Time Patrol, a group formed to monitor and protect the flow of time, preventing any outside forces from rewriting key moments across the timelines. Trunks brings Ace to the Time Nest, a central hub where fragments of history are preserved and observed. It's here that the distortions become clear, altered battles, unstable timelines, and moments that no longer unfold the way that they should. This sends us to our very first fight. The battle with Raditz is completely destabilized. He's been unnaturally amplified, tearing through Goku and Piccolo with a level of destruction that far exceeds anything from the original timeline. This introduction immediately establishes the stakes. We're here to fix a story that's actively changing for the worse in front of us.
Special Beam Cannon! What?
The movement in this game is a departure from the traditional fighter or that floaty arena style we've seen in Tenkaichi 3 or Raging Blast. It's a full 3D space with arena style layering over light RPG systems. The combat revolves around basic strings, key control, and special skills, but the real hook is the ability pool. Because there's such a wide variety of skills to choose from, combos started to feel personalized. The CAC gained a sense of identity through how you chain those moves together. Now once Raditz finally falls and Future Trunks confirms the corrections, there's a genuine sense of relief as the timeline settles. We're sent to work through the rest of the Saiyan and the start of the Namek saga. And this entire section feels like a prolonged tutorial, but throughout it, the stakes stay high. Ace is sent to intervene in a nightmare scenario where Goku is forced to take on two great apes, both Vegeta and Nappa. After helping realign this section, we're finally sent into the starting stages of Namek, where the what if route gets even weirder. Ginyu successfully swaps bodies with Vegeta and wipes out the Z Warriors. When Goku arrives to help, he's immediately jumped and body swapped by Ginyu, who can now call upon Goku's own moves, using the Kamehameha to kill him. Ace is sent in before this timeline can unfold, dealing with the usual Ginyu Force shenanigans that we're used to in these games. But that's where the game hit a wall for me. I'm not a fan of this segment. Even when Ace accidentally gets his body stolen. An elongated number of events occur before we even get it back, including defeating waves of enemies in a tight corridor where the camera fights you more than the fleeing goons do. I should also mention that the Ginyu you're forced to pilot doesn't match the strength or the kit of the original character that you brought in here, and since I brought a max level CAC, the difference was stark. It completely stalled the progression of the story and honestly felt like a chore to myself. That is also my fault for bringing in a max level CAC. Thankfully, we finally confront the two that have been distorting time, Towa and Mira.
I hope you weren't thinking of interfering. That'd be a mistake.
A costly mistake. I will eliminate you here and now.
Towa's goal starts to come into focus here. She's gathering ki to break the seal on the demon realm. Everything up until this point has been her interfering with every normal course of history. It doesn't take her long to realize that Ace is the one undoing her work. She greets them with tons of sarcasm, almost amused that someone would try to interfere with her plans. This sets up our first fight with him. Maybe it's because I'm playing through this Legend Patrol DLC and I'm max level, but I don't recall this fight being particularly challenging. Actually, for the most part, there's only ever been one challenging match in the first game that I'll talk about later. Throughout the fight, she openly admits that altering history has made things more entertaining for her. What bothers her is that Ace keeps restoring things. She even references the accidental body swap with Ginyu, mocking it while acknowledging it disrupted her plans. Now the fight doesn't last long and Mira isn't impressed. He moves to drain the warrior's energy, but Towa stops him. She's more interested in understanding who's behind this interference, which I'm kind of shocked that she hasn't met any of the Time Patrol at this point, given that Trunks and Cronoa know who she is. The game also uses this moment to hint at Ace's latent potential. It's subtle and almost easy to miss, but it gives the player something to reflect on beyond this fight. The pair leave this era giving Ace an ominous threat to be wary of getting in their plans again or face being removed from existence, giving the player a moment to notice the much larger stakes at hand, more so than the problems we've seen so far. We are now shown an alternate take on the Dragon Team taking on Frieza. Towa's interference sends Frieza right into his final form, skipping over everything else that they had fought before. What we end up with is a total slaughter of the warriors. Right before Gohan can be taken out, Goku arrives from the rejuvenation chamber, not at full health. But after seeing how much stronger Frieza is, we can only assume what's to come from here. Although I would imagine Goku showing up and seeing this would have at least caused the transformation to occur. And with Piccolo back on Namek, the Earth's Dragon Balls could have been used to somehow save the team. Ace is sent in right before this can happen, and this starts the next portion of Namek. For the most part, most of Namek has been pretty accurate with some changes sprinkled around. But the Cell Saga's beginnings is truly a gem of this game.
No, it wasn't supposed to. So, you refuse to show off your power. That's too bad.
The next mission sends Ace to stop Mr. Satan from being killed by Perfect Cell, but the way it unfolds is unusual. Things take a darker turn when the dark magic possesses Mr. Satan, sending him back into the ring. We are now tasked to fight him, bringing him down in multiple stages while Gohan and the cast in the background fight Cell and continue the normal act of the Cell games. This whole section does a great job from breaking away from the usual story mode fights we are used to in this series. It really made me think what Mr. Satan could have looked like if he had seeked out Roshi in his youth. Now after dealing with Hercule, Ace steps in alongside the Z Fighters to push the Cell Juniors back, helping thin the swarm as the battlefield starts to stabilize to normal history. But just as the tide begins to turn, Towa intervenes again. The single motion of her wand, she draws out Gohan's buried power, triggering his transformation into Super Saiyan 2. Now this was likely done since Android 16 was not in the original game and they needed to get this power up done, but I also completely forgot that Android 16 wasn't in the original game until this moment. Now after the Cell Juniors are cleared, Ace moves to confront Towa and Mira directly, with future Trunks arriving to support this effort.
Nothing seems to be going our way. I wonder, is that Goku's son? You again, huh? So annoying.
He barely lifted a finger, and yet I can sense his energy.
I think it's time to harvest. Your energy will be ours.
You won't have your way! Ah!
This clash is brutal, and for a brief moment it looks like Mira has been put down, but he rises up again almost immediately, looking almost eager to fight and upset that someone could rival his power, until Towa calls that encounter to a close. She's drawn enough energy from Gohan, and the pair withdraw to the next era. In the aftermath, Ace returns to support the exhausted Gohan against Super Perfect Cell. The assistant buys Gohan the time he needs to steady himself, reach Super Saiyan 2 again, and with that moment secured, the warrior steps back, leaving Gohan to finish the battle with the father-son Kamehameha.
Impossible! How can I?
In future Trunks' original timeline, the horror of the androids take a much darker turn. The Time Breakers grant androids 17 and 18 an unnatural power boost, leading them to successfully kill Trunks. This sudden shift causes Xeno Trunks' very existence to start fading away, as his history is erased in real time. After saving Trunks, it comes to the light that the Time Breakers didn't make one change. They rigged this timeline with a second failsafe. Later down in the future, they had ensured Cell achieves his perfect form before Trunks even returns from his training in the past. When Trunks finally does arrive, he's met with a dark-powered enhanced perfect Cell that he has no chance of defeating. This entire plan is calculated by Towa. She wants to erase Trunks from existence by killing his past self, expecting Ace to fix one of these anomalies, but she's banking on it being too late to catch the second one. However, the plan is foiled by a move I don't think anyone saw coming: Demigra's Mirage. Because Demigra needs Ace for his own endgame, he places a mark on us and force transports us to age 785. It's a very strange, uneasy alliance that allows us to rescue Trunks' past self in the nick of time, and also highlights the friction between the two different villains here. Now, the Buu portion of this game is not entirely my favorite section, despite having one of my favorite fights in the game included in it. It's insanely fast and skips some of the best battles this arc had, like Vegito and the Majin Vegeta fight. History remains the same until when Majin Buu splits into 3 bodies and overwhelms Super Saiyan 3 Goku. But instead of going and helping Goku here, Trunks sends Ace to intercept Towa and Mira before Mira can siphon Goku's energy. This fight ends up being really messy and drawn out, but it reaches a decisive moment when Ace slips past Mira's beam and disintegrates him with his own Buster Cannon. Now, given with how much these guys were built up to be a threat, I honestly thought they would have been around just a little longer, but there is reason for that. Now with Mira removed from the field, Ace shifts focus to Goku, who's already running on borrowed time in Super Saiyan 3. Now like I said earlier, this might actually be the hardest mission in the original game. Now together Ace and Goku drive back the Buus, but the strain on Goku is very obvious. He pulls away from the battlefield and entrusts the cleanup to Ace, leaving them surrounded by a swarm of smaller, still dangerous Majin Buus. Trunks tries to redirect the situation by convincing Buu to hold out for a stronger opponent. Buu entertains the idea for a moment and turns his attention towards the time traveler. Ace opts to withdraw to the time nest instead, a decision that visibly agitates Buu. Now up until this point, we've gotten back on track pretty quickly to how events in the anime and manga transpired, but it seems now that it doesn't really matter what occurs as long as the quote-unquote canon event results still remain the same. After Ace returns to the time nest, it's here where the main villain of the game finally shows his true face. After Klonoa removes a Majin emblem from Ace's palm before it explodes, demon god Demigra shows his face. The Majin emblem was intended to blow up, killing Ace, Trunks, and Klonoa when he returned back to the time nest, allowing Demigra to take Toki Toki and rule over time. His goal is to destroy history and create a new one where he can reign freely as a god of time, a position he wants to take away from Klonoa.
Toki Toki, give it to me. I'm worthy. You know this to be true.
Worthy? You're worthy of solitude, stuck in the cracks of time. How did you even escape in the first place?
A mirage.
We shall soon meet.
We take a look back in at Kami's lookout. Demigra tightens his grip on history by taking control of Piccolo and turning him against Goten and Trunks during their training. We are then tasked to step in and defeat Demigra's influence, freeing Piccolo from the mind control. But briefly after doing that, Super Buu arrives and forces everyone into another fight. Gotenks jumps into the mix, briefly shifting the fight in our favor, but Super Buu begins to pull back once the pressure builds. Once Gotenks defuses, the future warrior keeps the fight contained until help arrives in the form of Ultimate Gohan, helping stabilize the situation just long enough to push Buu before his explosive breaking point. But something inside him fractures first, forcing a violent regression into his true Kid Buu form. Now with a new goal in mind, even with Ace and Gohan pressing him, Kid Buu still reaches his objective and destroys Earth, taking Gohan, Piccolo, Goten, and Trunks with it. We're then shifted to the final stand on the sacred world of the Kais, where Goku and Vegeta and Ace, along with Mr. Satan, brace for this upcoming battle. The final fight with Kid Buu goes as expected as he gets his power boost, forcing Goku to gather the energy for the Super Spirit Bomb a little earlier than he usually does. When Buu manages to resist the attack, Ace steps in and adds strength to the push. The Spirit Bomb breaks through and erases Kid Buu completely, bringing the distortion to a definitive end. Now I love that our character gets to jump in and help that final battle. Maybe it's the nostalgia in me for this scene or the heartstrings it's pulling when I was a kid thinking I could help Goku too, but it's such a nice segue off of an otherwise short arc.
No! No! Damn it! I just need a bit more time! It's ready! Thanks.
Back at the time nest, the brief calm doesn't last long. The silence breaks when one of the Demigra's mirages appear and reveals the next target in his chain of distortions. The moment the god of destruction Beerus first visits Earth. In a panic, Klonoa sends Ace in immediately, and the scene unfolds rather quickly. After trying to contain the situation and none of them being able to slow down Beerus, Goku arrives with an answer already forming, explaining that he knows the transformation Beerus has been searching for. Seeing this scene again after so many years brings back so many memories. This was our first time experiencing the story in a Dragon Ball game outside of Battle of Z's horrible take on the arc, and one that really did mark a new renaissance of Dragon Ball at the time. Now after our fight with Beerus into space, Demigra makes his move mid-battle, attempting to slip dark magic onto Beerus and pushing the situation towards a very instant end. Under that supposed influence, Beerus forms a massive energy ball and aims it directly at Earth. Demigra's Mirage appears again, openly confident that this time he's won, only for the moment to unfold in a very different way he expected.
It's all over!
After everything has been destroyed, Demon God Demigra shall rule! What?
impossible!
By the way, I knew you were there. You see, my friend, I faked being hit by you. Trying to control me? That's blasphemous.
Do you guys remember when Beerus was just raw like this? There's just something about that early era of Dragon Ball Battle of Gods and Super that made Beerus feel like much more of an antagonizing force than he is now. With the illusion exposed, Beerus joins the Future Warrior to erase the Mirage completely. But after that distortion stabilizes, Beerus and his attendant Whis accompany Ace back to the Time Nest. Now his inclusion here and in the later game always made me question if the Gods of Destruction could easily just slip into and out of the Time Nest as if time doesn't hold any grounds to them. It would make sense for Whis, who can openly revert time, but I never thought about that with Beerus. Beerus wants to destroy Demigra on his own, and Cronoa is reluctant to let him do so, saying that the battle might actually destroy some part of the Time Nest. Instead, Trunks and Ace offer themselves to be the ones to destroy him, and Beerus and Whis put them to the test, which ends with both of them passing. This is an insane show of strength for both Trunks and Ace. Being able to impress both Beerus and Whis and not immediately getting knocked out like Goku did is an insane show of strength. Final phase of the last part of the game is now here. Another disturbance in the post-Buu timeline is felt, and the Future Warrior is sent to West City where the situation escalates upon arrival. All while Demigra makes his move, causing Trunks and Cronoa to go deal with him. Frieza, Cell, and Kid Buu stand together, newly revived and reinforced by dark magic. Holding all three back at once is honestly annoying but manageable. Getting some help from Goku mid-fight, he helps bring the villains down before things start to spiral even more. Gohan, Vegeta, and Gotenks drop in, and at first it looks like backup finally arrived, and then they start swinging at us. Demigra's magic is all over them. Once the spell breaks and everyone comes back to their senses, the Future Warrior returns to Toki Toki City, expecting a brief reset. Instead, damage there is already done. Demigra has completely destroyed Toki Toki City, and along that has now swallowed the bird itself, using the bird's power to power himself up. We are now faced one-on-one with Demigra, but it doesn't stay that way for too long as Trunks gets pulled under Demigra's control, forcing Ace to split focus.
It's too bad. Seems that your friends do my bidding now.
This is almost like a graduation match, finally showing how far the student has surpassed the teacher. And once we finally break Trunks free, Demigra tries the same trick on Ace. Cronoa and Trunks shut it down before it can take any hold, and Goku, somehow making his way here, jumps in soon after to even the field. Demigra retreats once he's being pushed back, but he doesn't disappear for too long. Goku tracks him straight to the Time Nest through instant transmission, where the real endgame starts to take shape. It's here where it looks like he might actually win. Goku pushes into Super Saiyan 3 and attacks alongside Ace, which is a strange choice as the God form is now the newer, stronger form that they could have used. Pre-Battle of Gods, this would have made more sense to me. He also just mentioned in the last match that the Super Saiyan God form is immune to Demigra's magic. Using the form here would have saved them from what follows. Demigra rains down these sharp pole-like objects, and in the process one of them pierces Ace clean through. Goku falls not too long after, pinning both of them down in place by Demigra's magic. With no one left to intervene, history begins to collapse and Ace fades out of consciousness. Then the timeline bends. We find another version of Ace, or maybe Ace himself, waking up in a strange void as he comes across a time scroll showing exactly how this moment ends. Using the scroll, he jumps back into the point right after Demigra leaves, shatters the pins pinning Goku down, and gives him an opening he needs to hold back the energy threatening the timeline. To everyone else in the room, you're just the hero who was able to turn events around in the nick of time. Only you carry the moment of being impaled and left for dead. Well, maybe Goku. He does have a very questioned look on his face. Now, he's not the only one confused. I noticed something interesting going on here. There are now two versions of Ace existing at once. We've seen before that multiple versions of the same character can occupy the same space because of how the story handles timelines. After using the time scroll, our Ace followed the path where we saved Goku, meaning this Ace would never experience that situation to begin with. If their timeline diverged, what exactly happens to them? After dealing with this temporal paradox, we are now laser focused on Demigra. The demon god enters his true form, fully committed to ending the time patrol here. Demigra's true form might be one of the most interesting designs I've seen in Dragon Ball. He looks like a mix of a dragon, a Kai, and his base wizard-like form. And I also really love the way that they conveyed his magic fighting. It's a very unique boss encounter and one that I'm glad was included. Anything less would have been very demeaning to this character. Now after this gruesome match with Ace putting up a decent fight against this monster, Demigra decides to crash in for his final attack, with Ace fighting back with his own Kamehameha. In this struggle, the hero hears familiar voices. Goku, Vegeta, Gohan, Piccolo, and Krillin channel their energy across time, feeding everything they have into this warrior's hands. Their returning blast overwhelms Demigra completely and frees Toki Toki before the crack of time begins to tear itself apart.
Don't give up! I know you're stronger. I can feel it. You're hopeless. Utterly hopeless. It's only a little more. Just a little more. You can't lose. Don't be a fool.
Just making it this far is amazing on its own.
Now there's also the ending where Goku arrives in time to stand beside the future warrior, and the two finish Demigra together with a combined Kamehameha. This can only be achieved if you take more than 50% damage in this last match though. Now you might be asking yourself, how did they help Ace, and how does Goku get here? Even though Ace is trapped in the crack of time, completely isolated from reality, the Supreme Kai of Time mentions that this area exists where all eras join. This dimensional crossroad is what allows the energy of the Z Fighters to reach him regardless of whether they know him in their specific age or not. Goku even mentions sensing a strong ki in need of help. He clearly feels that righteous intent and decides to jump in. But also in true Goku fashion, he likely wants a chance to fight whoever's on the other side for himself as well. Now that connection they built throughout the game allows them to reach across dimensions, proving that Ace has become a true part of the Z-Fighter legacy, with Goku anchoring the energy and the nature of the vault providing the bridge. Ace gets exactly what he needs to bridge that gap in power to end Demigra's threat for good. With the distortion finally resolved, things settle back into something close to normal. Trunks asks Ace to remain his partner in protecting the flow of time, and with that acceptance, it starts a new path for the Time Patrol. But we're forgetting someone. Someone got away during all this.
It seems as though they've destroyed you, my creation.
Not enough power. I need more. I need more energy.
That's right. We'll leave this place and collect more power. And there we can regroup and try again. But we mustn't give up. We'll be back to exact our revenge upon our transgressors. And I know that next time you will annihilate all of them. Because you are truly my greatest masterpiece, Mira.
Just wait. Soon we'll return to crush those who stood in our way.
Towa and Mira aren't completely out of the picture just yet. After that dust settles, Towa manages to find Mira's core still beating, and they retreat to find a way to restore his power. Now you might expect that story to pick right back up in the sequel, but Mira's path actually detours into a side quest into Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. I've already done a deep dive into how that encounter plays out, so I'll have that link down below if you want to see where their journey officially leads before we start the events of Xenoverse 2. Just when things feel stable, new wormholes begin tearing through history. It turns out Demigra planned for this. Before his defeat, he set distortion points in motion, a delayed attempt to overwhelm the Time Patrol even after he was gone. The first fracture drops us at the fall of planet Vegeta. Bardock isn't cutting through Frieza Force soldiers like he normally does. These troops are stronger, more coordinated, and positioned to stop him before he ever reaches Frieza. After we help Bardock get through a large number of these enemies, Frieza joins the fight personally this time. Instead of brushing Bardock aside, he drags us out. Now the ending still aligns with history. Planet Vegeta is destroyed, but Bardock vanishes in the final seconds. He's pulled from the explosion and scattered somewhere else in time, forcing Trunks to a full search across multiple eras to find where that distortion settled. This distortion is what we came to look for. If Bardock had died here before reaching Frieza, the end result would have still been the same, causing no disturbances in the grand scale of time. This trail leads to age 774. Broly has awakened on Earth, saturated with dark energy, and the shift throws off the entire sequence of events of Broly's second coming. Gohan arrives way later than he should. There's not much difference between this retelling and the movie, so it goes by pretty quickly. Now here, Broly isn't defeated the way he normally would be. After getting knocked down mid-recovery, he's ripped away from the fight and dragged into a time stream, leaving Goten and Trunks staring at the sky trying to process what just happened. Who was that extra person helping them? Now these threads all converge on Namek. Bardock and Broly are dropped into the middle of Goku and Frieza's battle. Demigra's intention here was to let Broly erase Goku before history can correct itself. Bardock, already aware of how this ends, tries to intervene with Ace's help. Midway through the match, a wish sends the group back to Earth, but the problem follows them. Broly immediately knocks Bardock aside, leaving Ace to deal with an empowered legendary Super Saiyan. Now, I don't know why we should be worried about this. A couple chapters ago, Ace and Trunks took on Whis and Beerus with very little difficulty. Now, off-screen, Bardock is thrown into the same area Vegeta happens to be in. When he sees him, he remembers that Vegeta can use the Power Ball technique. Now, either he knows Vegeta can do this because he could see the future, or Vegeta's been capable of using it since he was a kid. And looking into it, seems like only Elite Saiyans can use the move, and then there's an interview with Toriyama that states there's only 2 Elite Saiyans in that class ranking, one being the Prince and the King, so guess Turles just figured it out on his own. Bardock uses Vegeta's artificial move, transforms into a Great Ape, and destroys the Power Ball, so Broly can't match him. Now in theory, this evens the battlefield, but honestly, a Great Ape charging at a dark energy boosted legendary Super Saiyan doesn't really change much. This is the best representation of Coughing Baby versus Hydrogen Bomb I've ever seen. Vegeta is still shaken in the same way he was in the film. He forces himself up into the fight, and Broly is eventually knocked unconscious. Bardock collapses from exhaustion, and Trunks removes Vegeta from the battlefield in the same way Gohan knocked him out back in the day, restoring the timeline by taking everyone where they need to be. This whole sequence feels like it could have just been implemented in the main story. Now, the wormhole concept is interesting, but really could have lived entirely inside that GT DLC, while the energy surge with Broly and Bardock could have been used in the main game and might have strengthened Towa and Mira's build-up and helped with Mira's strength increase. But we're not done with the wormhole just yet. We move into the GT DLC. Originally 2 story packs, and a pre-order Vegeta that you can't even access on the consoles anymore. This feels like a different era of this series. We now have a plethora of DLC that all get very creative with the story they want to tell, and this one doesn't really get that creative. Another distortion forms in the GT timeline. We see GT Trunks is under Baby's control and attacks Pan, and while we're saving her, Baby is forced into his Great Ape state earlier than he should be off screen, while Goku's Super Saiyan 4 transformation happens off screen as well. Once Goku and Ace arrive together, Baby Vegeta gets down quickly, and that wormhole remnant pulls the Great Ape away before anything stabilizes on this timeline. Now, I haven't mentioned this much, but the voice delivery in this game can be distracting to say the least. Some lines land awkwardly, especially here. Now, it doesn't derail the scenes, but it's pretty noticeable, and some way more than others.
Hold on. Thanks for helping, Pan. All right, I gotta go. Bye.
We're sent off into the Super 17 arc. Frieza's soldiers are attacking the city, and surprisingly this section has some more fun with the characters. Since Ginyu is still a frog, Nappa leads the Neo Ginyu force. There's some interesting comments that happen between the bunch, with Jeice referring to hell as the demon world, and when Trunks shows up, Nappa meets the son of someone he once fought besides and vows to send him to hell. Those exchanges do more for the moment than the fights themselves. Hellfighter 17 appears, eliminates Trunks before we can stop him, and fuses with Android 17. Now the Super 17 conflict unfolds the way you'd expect. Goku reaches Super Saiyan 4, and just before Ace can finish it, the distortion removes 17 from the board. But I've noticed something here. Goku remembers Ace. Now normally once a distortion's corrected, the cast forgets any interference. Here that reset doesn't fully happen. The most likely explanation is that because Baby and 17 aren't fully resolved, the timeline never properly locks back into place. That final stretch moves us into the Shadow Dragon Saga. Looking back at these sections, it really does show how blessed we are with the stories they're giving to us now. There's much more thought put into them, and these DLCs fly right by and don't even remotely compare to what we got now. It's also such a shame that they didn't show us the timeline events that could occur if the villains had won like they did throughout the major section of the game. Something akin to Omega's plan actually coming to fruition, or Goku actually getting trapped in hell. Now this entire section is pretty skippable. The only thing that really comes out of it is the Super Saiyan 4 fusion, which at this point might be the best thing out of this entire DLC. After Omega falls, Ace, Gogeta, and the Dragon are pulled back into the black hole and sent to a place Demigra once planned to gather displaced GT villains. The last fight becomes a 2-on-3 clash against GT's major threats, and the dialogue, just like the last section, really does carry this. The villains' personalities clash constantly, making it clear they were never built to cooperate long term. Once the threats are dealt with, Trunks arrives feeling largely ineffective during the wormhole crisis, and I would say ineffective throughout the entire game. Vegeta recognizes him immediately as his future son, and in a beautiful final exchange, the team say goodbye and finally erase the last trace of Demigra's magic. Timeline settles without another fracture waiting behind it.
Father, it's been a while. The fight you had earlier, it was awesome. With the wormhole destroyed, we stopped the changing of history, once and for all. Finally, everything will go back to normal.
Hey,
Are you going back already?
Yes. Father, please, take care.
It's been 11 years since I first went through this game's story. Coming back to it now, I was curious how much of that love was nostalgia and how much of it would actually hold up. Even with the pacing issues, the odd structure choices, and the moments that clearly show their age, I still very much enjoyed it. The Legend Patrol DLC closes with one last reveal. The robot we've been using to get into this mode admits that Fu orchestrated the whole thing, using our CSC as a conduit to funnel energy from every corrected distortion straight to him. That's one DLC down and a handful left to go. With the leak of Xenoverse 3 hovering in the background, I couldn't have picked a better time to revisit this story. Replaying it didn't just get me hyped for what's next, but it reminded me why this series mattered to me so much in the first place, flaws and all. I had a great time going back through it. And if you did too, and if you're new here, check out the rest of the channel. You jumped into a series where I'm going back and playing the Dragon Ball games that I kinda missed. Consider subbing so you don't miss the next section of this game or any upcoming Dragon Ball game news, or Dragon Ball in general. It's kind of just my Yap channel at this point. As always, I want to hear from you guys. Drop a comment in the section below. How do you guys feel about the Legends Patrol DLC? Did you enjoy it? Did I miss anything, for one? Because I feel like it took me forever to go through this. What did Xenoverse mean to you? As always, it's been your local overanalyzer Art Tellings, and I hope you have yourself a damn good one.